Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Liverpool transfer show on Football Talk Podcast. My name is Ozzy, and I'm your host for this evening. As you can see on the title, I've made it very clear in terms of my stance on another manager. Of course, a lot of rumors circulating this week that if Xabi Alonso, of course, former Red, uh, was to lose in terms of his team being Real Madrid against Man City, he could face the sack. Unfortunately for Xabi Alonso, his team were unable to be victorious today as they lost 2-1 to Man City at the Bernabeu. So let's get into the current situation, and I'll give you my thoughts in terms of what relation this has to Liverpool. So my take on the whole issue, I personally think it's getting treated harshly. They're second in the league, 4 points behind Barcelona, which is not the end of the world, especially as we're only in December. They're seventh in the Champions League table with 12 points. But then again, this is Real Madrid. The media are always ready to hound people that they're not fond of, and that goes the same with players. And the fans seem to act privileged. So they're very quick to wave the white flag when everything's not perfect. But fair play to the likes of Rodrigo, Jude Bellingham, and Asensio, who voiced out their support for Xabi Alonso after the game today. So let's see if any action is going to be taken tomorrow. The last time a Real Madrid coach who suffered back-to-back defeats in the opening season unfortunately got the sack, and that was Santiago Solari. Now, in relation to Liverpool, if he does in fact get sacked tomorrow or later this week, honestly, Arsenal should start packing his bags because his time is up. And talking from the hierarchy's point of view, it's no hidden secret that Michael Edwards is a huge fan of Alonso. And if you believe the rumors that occurred a couple of years ago, I would say, um, we were in discussions with Xabi Alonso to replace the departing Jurgen Klopp before we actually spoke to Arne Slot. So that would mean he's our first choice on paper, or would have been at the time. Now, there are a lot of fans that are still slotting and will think I'm being totally disrespectful, but despite not losing in the last four games, I still don't have faith in this coach. Quite frankly, I think we've been a tad bit fortunate with our results recently. The win against Inter Milan was down to getting the softest penalty ever. Looking at our other win, West Ham were abysmal, and the two draws against Sunderland and Leeds were simply not good enough for a team like Liverpool. So there's no way I think we're back with this coach. And for me, the pressure is still on a slot. If FSG are smart, they will do the right thing and have private discussions with Xabi Alonso to see if he would be interested in becoming Liverpool manager. What we can do, we can give Arne Slot until the end of this month, so Xabi Alonso can take some time off, enjoy Christmas, and then start his new role at Liverpool in January. New year, new team, and for Liverpool, it'll be a new manager. That's what I'm dreaming of right now. Whether it becomes a reality or not, only time will tell. We'll see if there's any events that unfold in the next 2, 3 days. Um, but if this, unfortunately, for Alonso, if he was to get sacked, it could be a blessing in disguise for us because I would rather us appoint an actual manager rather than go through the interim route. Um, and I've voiced this before. I would be over the moon if we were to get Xabi Alonso as the manager because, quite frankly, I think he should have been the manager before we appointed Arne Slot. So that's my take on the Xabi Alonso situation. and like my title says, bring Xabi home. And I truly believe that. Just gonna go through some of the comments before we move on. Bo says, big up Ozzy, big up Bo, hope you're doing well. I don't think we will sack Slot this season. Would love Alonso though. I hear you. I think since the whole Mohamed Salah situation, it may have given him an extra bit of time to remain in the role, but I'm hoping that they see the bigger picture and realize that he's not the right coach for us. There's so many issues in regards to his managerial style and the players are responding to his tactics, and there is no togetherness within the team. So there's a lot of issues. Let's just say it like that. Both the class from State of yesterday attacking Slot, you could see him get angry. Yep, I mentioned this yesterday in the match reaction. That's why I don't like him at all. He thinks he's above everyone. That is not a Liverpool manager. I hear you. Boss is the same site that said Alonso would get sacked if he loses, said he won't get sacked. It's interesting because I've noticed that today as well. There were a lot of sources that were like, "Oh, he's getting sacked," but now they're like, "Oh, he won't get sacked." So which one is it? It might also be because some of the players were very vocal in support of the coach. Maybe he's won a few extra weeks in charge as well. So yeah, let's see. Ozan, big up Ozan. He said, "Could the stars really align and we end up swapping Xavi for Slot?" I'll take that all day long. I really hope so. I really hope so. Both think hopefully Slot literally ruined Elliot's career as well. What a great manager. We'll speak about Elliot. There's been some news or some comments made from his current coach. So we'll talk about that during the show. Um, he don't have the social skills at all. Ozan says really bad man management skills from Dutch managers overall. I hate to be fair. I think Dutch managers are quite open in terms of how they speak, and I think that could be an issue um, to the public because you're revealing too much, and sometimes you've got to play the game. You've got to be a bit more smart in terms of how you communicate. Um, and what I learned from Arne don't throw your players under the bus, which he has done numerous times during his time at Liverpool. Unless there's many such examples that they don't know how to communicate well, they're too blunt. Yeah, that is very true. Exactly. Game out. What's your honest gut feeling about Slots staying Aussie? Do you think FSG fully back him no matter what? I don't think they fully back him no matter what. Um, but I think they do back him, to be fair. If we were to suffer back-to-back defeats in this month, and the distance increases between Liverpool's current position, which I think is ninth in the league, and fourth, then I think they'll have serious conversations. Because there isn't a huge gap, I believe it's about 4 points. Let me confirm that actually. So fourth place is Crystal Palace with 26 points. Liverpool are 10th. Bloody hell, we're 10th. Oh my gosh, we're 9th. We're 10th with 23 points. But because there's a 3 point gap, one or two great results can, literally help us shoot up the table. So that would be, Slot's defense where he would say, look, last 4 games, 2 draws, 2 wins in all competitions. We're only 3 points away from top four, so it's not a disaster. That would be how he would reference it, and then he'll point out, look, if we can get a couple of players through the door in January, that would help. And of course, Salah, you know, unfortunately, he'll use him to say, he's not behaved well, so I'm having to deal with a lot of egos and all that sort of stuff. So he might get the backing, I think. But I don't think he's got full backing where they will blindly just support him. If the results don't go to plan, his position would be in question. I was gonna say, what if John W. Henry thinks that Liverpool are not too big a club to be in a relegation battle? Didn't a manager say that comment in Roy Hodgson? And what happened to him? He got sacked. So yeah, when he said that comment, that I, I don't know how vocal I was in those days, 'cause I was a lot younger, but yeah, that would have been the last straw for me to say that out loud. That we're in a relegation battle, absolutely outrageous there. Uh, Hi Fozzie in chat. I'm not Fozzie, I'm Aussie, but it's okay. From Andrew says Sack Slot and bringing Xabi Alonso, sell Salah, bringing Elise, Semenyo, Wharton, Baliba, Murillo, and Gehi. That is not happening. That is way too much. Especially in one window. But in terms of the profile players, yeah, that's going to cost us another £500 million, and I don't think the club will want to spend that kind of money every year because now it'll become a bit of a habit. But I do feel he hasn't lost the dressing room. Uh, there has been two situations that either could have been prevented. Chiesa couldn't have tracked back versus Sunderland, so I could have missed thoughts. I think even yesterday's performance, I sensed there was a bit more togetherness. I don't know if that was because Salah wasn't there. The squad was like, come on, like we've got to really fix up. Maybe not saying they did it for Salah or anything like that, but when you're without your main guy, your main goal scorer, you really have to step up a little bit. So that might have been why there was a bit more of a togetherness within the team. I don't think that's come from the coach personally. I think that is something that I believe Van Dijk would have orchestrated to galvanize the squad and try and get them to play with a bit more unity. But it's one of those ones where we can't quite, pinpoint exactly what's happening. Um, I feel like he lost the dressing room a long time ago. But then again, when you get better results, the mood changes and the morale changes, and the fans' reaction changes as well. So football is one of those games where the mood can change with a flick of a switch. So it's just one of those things. Um, Adam says hi. Oh, so big up Aussie and chat. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to you. Smash the likes and subscribe. Blessing greetings. Big up yourself, Abdul. Bo said, but Sobo could have missed that easily, like Gerrard did with Hudson. Uh, I don't think there would have been a guarantee if he would have got the sack. The Salah situation, we don't know if he would have faced a sack as well. After the Leeds game. I don't think so. To be fair, it doesn't feel like he was, treading on thin ice. Like I think from some of our fans' perspective, we feel like he was to an extent, but when he was suffering so many huge defeats a few weeks ago, and there was no indication that he would get the sack. I feel like um, they are in support of him until at least the end of this month. That's my thinking, and then they'll take it from there. But at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if they were to keep him on board until the end of the season. Now, if Xabi Alonso was to get sacked, maybe that changes the outlook altogether. Kind of like when we're in a January window and there's a target that we are shortlisted as a target for us in the summer. It might be a safe situation from a manager's point of view where maybe we're saying Alonso's number one, so that's the one we're going to go for at the end of the season. If we feel like the club hasn't achieved certain objectives, and we need a change of coach. So who knows? Let's see what happens with Xabi Alonso. That could be the indicator where, look, you know, if Alonso is available, it might change the tune from FSG, and they end up taking that route where they sack Arne Slot and bring on Xabi Alonso. Delete Steve. Just give me 1 second, guys. Apologies. Delete Steve, big up. So he says, big up Fozzie in chat. Why am I being called Fozzie? That's twice I've been called Fozzie. Liverpool need to sign Mbappe, Yamal, Junior, Pedri, Messi, Ronaldo, R9. Feel like you're missing someone. There you go. And now Dini and Cannavaro at centre back. Big up yourself. Boss said, I honestly thought Slot would get sacked after the Salah interview. Now he's getting a new contract, FFS. No, when Salah came out with those comments after the Leeds game, I didn't think Slot would get the sack. I think that would send out the wrong message from the owners because in that sort of situation, you always back the manager ahead of the player. No player's bigger than the club, no manager's bigger than the club either. But when someone has that kind of authority in terms of the coach slash manager, you have to support them in that situation. So I think Salah was naive thinking that that those comments would get him the sack. But I don't think that was the reason why Salah was so outspoken, in my opinion. I think it was more down to frustration or bottled up frustration, as to say. And I feel like something has been said in the background. I do believe that the club have indicated that they are willing to sell him in January and that there are offers on the table. And I don't think he wants to leave so soon. And that's why he felt frustrated. It didn't help that he didn't play against Leeds United either. And I just thought like he was like, you know what? Forget this. I'm just gonna say how I feel. I've got nothing to lose. They already are planning to selling me in January. So, you know, let me say my piece. That's what I feel like is happening, but only time will tell if my theory is correct. Bob said, why don't the local players do like the Egyptian players? Picture of Salah on Insta with a crown. That's what I want. Players can't do things like that. It puts their position in jeopardy as well. And if you show support of the player more than the coach, then you'll be transferred out of the club. Also, you can't transfer 20 odd players, but um, it's not the right thing to do from a professional point of view. So no, I don't think that would ever happen. Mark, big up Mark. He said, could you actually imagine Xabi Alonso and Stevie as his number two coaching the unbelievable young talent that we have versus XTK, Bradley, Ping Pong, Rio, etc.? I would love to see Xabi Alonso as the manager. I don't see Gerrard coming in as his number two. I feel like Gerrard still feels like he's more than good enough to be a number one at an established club. But look, if he was on board, then amazing. But I don't see Gerrard coming as a number two, to be honest with you. Uh, but yeah, for me, Xabi Alonso is the dream. And if he's not available for now, I'd rather have Stevie G for interim and then Xabi Alonso next summer. But let's see. Bo said the dream. Yeah, Bo's mentioned that before as well. Bo said Gerard would love our youth players. The Dutch fool hates them. I think I don't think a lot of coaches would love our youth players right now. It's just that Slot has a different way of managing things, to be fair. But also, if every player does so, surely they sack him over 20 players? Nah, it's not going to happen. It sends the wrong message from a club's point of view. You don't behave like that in public. These are professionals. These are players that have been, they are very well paid. You have to represent the club, and if you're throwing the coach under the bus in that manner, and publicly, it really signals out the wrong message to the world. So no, that's something I don't think I will ever see in world football. I was gonna say, I think Xabi and Stevie G could really work some magic together, like they did at Istanbul. Yeah, that would be the dream. But I don't know. I just feel like Gerard would want to test it at least one more time at a club because he was very close to becoming Rangers manager again. And then if he feels like he's not good enough or doesn't have the adequate skills to be a number one, I think he would be willing to accept a number two role elsewhere, or he'll continue to do punditry. Box, how many new pens that happened, bloody hell. Honestly, did you see the compilation of all of Sobo's pens? Man always goes to the keeper's right, but the power ensures he never misses. I haven't seen a compilation recently, but I know when we signed him, I was watching a lot of compilations. I've been following his career for quite some time before he even joined Liverpool. As a player I really like. The reason I really like Szoboszlai is because during his time at Salzburg and Red Bull Leipzig, uh, one of his sort of key traits was scoring long range shots. And growing up, in the 90s and early noughties, in terms of being a football fan, you know, those kind of goals were an abundance, long shot screamers. And in terms of Liverpool, players like Patrick Berger smashing at top bins, that's something that you'd love to see on the pitch. And it's not something that you see a lot in this day and age. So for me, he's a little bit of a throwback that, he has the ability of scoring from a long distance. Uh, and he scored some crazy bangers for Salzburg and Leipzig, which is why I started following him. And we were actually linked to him as well when he was a Salzburg player back in the day. So he's always been a player that we've kept an eye on and we've always scouted. And thankfully, he's a player right now. And hopefully, we can get him on a new contract because it is thoroughly deserved. Mark says, my view, Slot is not the manager. He's just a head coach. And he's tactically bankrupt. There's a lamppost in the street outside ours that is more tactically aware than Arne, I'm afraid to say. I think that's a good assessment. He's not a manager, he's a coach. But for what he's getting paid for, he's not at the level that you expect at Liverpool Football Club. So that's my concern. I feel like tactically he's been shown this season. And when you're saying things out in public that you don't have the solutions to defeat a team that plays the low block or long balls, you're losing your credibility as a coach because that is one of the sort of basic things that you expect when you're at a high club. Because everything's going to play a low block against you. No team is going to play tiki taka or go toe to toe with you because they don't have the quality to go that way. Or the teams that's Liverpool are too superior from a technical standpoint. So no, for me, he's been found out from a tactical point of view. He's made a few tweaks in recent games. Playing a 4-4-2 diamond. I was impressed. I've been saying it for months that that's the formation to go into based on the current profile players that we have. Um, so maybe he's watched the show of mine. I don't know, but for me, that's not enough. I need to see more from the coach. But what the main issue I have with Arne Slot is his man management skills. I just don't feel like he knows how to manage a crop of elite players or players that are of the highest quality. And of course, you have to deal with egos as well. And I don't feel like he's a coach that sympathizes with his players. I feel like he's quite cold and is probably robotic in terms of his treatment. Treats him just like you're a player, I'm a coach. Keep our distance, and that's not really been the way our coaches have been in the last 10, 15, 20 years. Even Rafa Benitez was quite cold, but he kind of made up for it from a tactical standpoint because he was a genius in terms of setting the teams up for Liverpool, especially when we didn't have the right quality when he first joined. So that was a difference in that regard. Brendan Rodgers was pretty awful all the way around. Jurgen was probably the one that really sort of galvanized um, the club and brought a different spirit uh, within the club as well. So maybe the expectations are different from us fans because we're accustomed to a Jurgen Klopp style of manager, someone that's compassionate, someone's that's power figure to the players, but not just that. It's just putting an arm around the player when they need it. Look at this current Salah situation. Slot was quite clear in his interview yesterday that he's not willing to talk. He believes that Salah should take the initiative to start the conversation. So when you've got a coach that's very much standoff, it doesn't bode well for the player, unfortunately. So yeah, let's see what happens with Slot. I don't have too much faith in him. Of course, I'm still going to support my team. I'm not going to wish us to lose or anything like that. That's not the right way of supporting a team. That's not really the definition of being a fan there. So for me, even though I'm not a big fan of the coach, he still gets my support to an extent. But at the same time, I'll be critical in terms of what I see and shown slight improvements, but I think he's been riding his luck a little bit in recent games as well. To be fair, Dulucci says, Oz, what do you notice from all the pundits criticizing Mo Salah? A lot of it's lazy analysis from my point of view, and it's sort of old school thinking where a club can't do wrong. There are situations where a manager can handle situations incorrectly. Um, I know people say nothing's bigger than a club, but a club's standpoint as well can also be critiqued in that regard. I think pundits have, especially the ones. Well, Carragher's got a personal issue, which we'll talk about very shortly. But like, other pundits are depends who you listen to. Like Stephen Judd, I'm going to talk about this situation, in terms of different references, which have come out in the last 24 hours. He's got a different standpoint in terms of what Salah has done, and he's made some very, very fair comments today. I just feel like some of the assessment is just lazy. You're seeing true colors out of some people that especially if they're not affiliated with Liverpool, they're just showing hate, um, and they are enjoying this moment right now because they're able to disrespect a Liverpool player, and they possibly know that he will leave at some point as well. Um, but unfortunately, if this was handled a bit differently in the back, then maybe we'd have a different outcome. Right now, unfortunately for Salah, I don't see a way coming back to this. I think he will unfortunately be sold in January, and I think Slot will remain until the foreseeable future. Let's see. But yeah, not very positive to be fair. But also, unless you don't care about his awful tactics anymore, it's just him as an awful being. Yeah, but I think it's a combination of the two. I'm not impressed with his tactics, but also as a person, I don't like his man management style. Um, and the way he comes across in press conferences, I just find more annoying the more I watch him now. So yeah, it's not good. Abdul says Liverpool to strengthen his centre back, CDM and winger, sack Slot and sell Salah. I don't know if look, if that happens in January, then that's a lot going on. I wouldn't want to sell Salah personally. I think sack Slot first and try and patch up with Salah to at least let him finish the season, and then in the summer we can revisit the situation again. Centre back, 100%. CDM won't happen in January. Winger, possibility depending on the Salah situation. So only time will tell. We're almost approaching mid-December. I'm sure we'll get some more clarity in the coming weeks. Others says, so that means Mo Salah ain't touching the pitch again for the club, at least until after AFCON. He might be sold um, before the end of AFCON. So this week, in terms of our next fixture being against Brighton, is the last one before he departs and goes over to represent Egypt in AFCON. I believe the tournament starts on the 15th. So no, he could be so long before the tournament concludes, which is a bit annoying. Also, can you see Slot be our manager for 10 years, Ozzy? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm I'm not even imagining that. That's just outrageous. No, that's a definite no for me. Marx says, sadly, we've become pedestrian and predictable under the current regime. Agreed. I'd literally personally drive Xabi from Madrid to Anfield, pick up Stevie on the way. If you miss a chance to get Xabi again, absolutely. I definitely agree with you there, Mark. And so does Bo. Do you think fans could do a better job than Hughes and Edwards? Nah, I don't want to be disrespectful to them. They, they still have the qualifications and the skill set to, bring players in and negotiate and have a vision for the club. But we will have that conversation because it will depend what happens with Slot. If he stays until the end of the season, where do we finish? We have to assess that, and we'll have to point fingers at the end of the season because if we miss out on Champions League football, it's down to them because they could have dismissed the manager a long time ago, and it was their choice not to do that because maybe egos come into play where they feel like if we sack him, it looks like that we're failures. So I don't know. We'll see. This is probably something we'll have to assess as the season goes on. Mark says the most important thing in January is to ensure we get Gehi. I agree. Um, my only concern with Gehi, I don't know if he'll join in January. To be fair, um, would he become a Liverpool player? I'll be honest with you. As time goes on, my gut feeling is telling me no. I feel like he could possibly move on next summer, maybe go abroad, play for a team like Bayern Munich or someone like that. So I just feel like I feel like we had our chance and we kind of missed out. But hopefully I'm wrong, and hopefully we do sign him in January. Right. Lucy says the club need 11 players every transfer window us because real life is exactly like FIFA 25. Yeah, unfortunately, life doesn't work like that. Um, Martin, big up Martin, said, would Liverpool take Xabi next summer and start a whole new team and bring in James Milner and Steven Gerrard as coach with him and throwing coach? Also, Mhm. I don't think that would um, happen personally. In terms of Xabi Alonso, I think that could be a possibility because even if they decide to keep him, same situation as with Slot, they will have to review his performance and then take it from there. And it might be where both coaches are back in the market again. And you'd assume, Liverpool would be the front runners to appoint him. In terms of Milner and Joe, I don't know what Milner's situation is in terms of his professional career. If he's still going to continue to play because he can hack it. He's not. I know he's a lot older now. Believe he's 39, 40. I might be wrong there, but he's still playing. He can still do a job. So if he decides to become a coach, I actually wouldn't mind Milner coming back to Liverpool as a coach. I think he'd be a great um, coach for us, but not just from a tactical point of view. I think in terms of personality and setting expectations within the squad, I feel like his professionalism will come out very well. And Gerrard, I've said it previously in the show, I don't think Gerrard would want to come in as a coach. I still feel like he's got ambitions of being a number one manager, somewhere, whether it's in Europe or any part of the world. I'm not too sure, but still feel like he's got aspirations to be manager once again. Bo says Gay and normal signs for the next two windows. I'm so tired of signing so many players, not the Liverpool way. Oh, we still need players. I'll be honest with you. In January, I think we need to get at least one defender. Um, and I can see someone like Semenyo coming in just because of his current situation where he's probably regarded as a summer target, but because he's available and there's a lot of competition to sign him, I think we might fast track, 6 months and bring him early. So that's how I'm seeing it. But in terms of signing a CDM as well, I don't think we'll do too much business in that manner. But I can see us signing one or two players, to be fair. Bo says Milner as a coach, I would love that in the future. Yeah, it is a possibility, hopefully. If he decides to take that role, we can do that. Bo said, I literally think Joe would come back even as a ball boy. Nah, I don't think so. I feel like because he's voiced it in interviews in previous times where he's got real ambitions of being a successful manager. And I feel like when you have that desire, you won't just, settle for less. And I'm not saying coming to Liverpool is less. I'm saying that he probably wants to be Liverpool manager one day. That would be his dream. That would be his aspiration. And to ever get there or get even close to that position, he needs to be successful at another club. In terms of what he's achieved so far, for me, it's not sufficient enough for him to have sort of so to be regarded as a long-term manager at the club. But interim, I think because of his status as a former player, that could work. So let's see. Let's see what happens. Mark saying that's the difference. Slot is just doing a job. No allegiance, Xabi and Steven Gerrard are Liverpool through and through. Yeah, they've got an affinity with the club. Of course, Steven Gerrard, being a Scouser, and Xabi Alonso, coming over here, but pretty much an adopted Scouser. He's got so much love for the club and has built a great connection with the fans and the city. So yeah, it would be a great sight to see both of them back at Liverpool. Whether we see both of them together, I'm not too sure. I'm not saying I wouldn't. I would love to see it. I just don't think it's realistic. And if I had to choose one or the other, I would like to go for Xabi Alonso as our head coach slash manager, whatever job title they want to give him. Boss, he's not even doing the job. Yeah, he's in a miserable job. To be fair, boss says we need someone who lives and breathes Liverpool, the fans and the city. I don't think that's the ultimate requirement for me. I just want someone that is of high quality that can come in and do a job for the club. Jurgen Klopp wasn't someone that lives and breathes Liverpool before he joined. Of course, when he came, he really bought into what the club represents, what the people represent, as well as the city. So that's something you have to have in mind, and that's something you probably assess when you build a profile of managers or players that you want to bring into a club. They have to be aligned with the philosophy or the identity of the club. So you don't have to be someone that lives and breathes Liverpool, because I don't live in Liverpool, but I've been supporting the club for a very, very long time. But what you do want is someone to come in and show real compassion for what they're doing and embody what Liverpool represents as a club. So that's what you want. And I think with Arne Slot, as previously mentioned, he is just treating this like a job. Um, there is no connection with the fans. I might be looking at it the wrong way. I just don't feel like there is a connection with the coach. Whether it's because of his demeanor, I'm not too sure. Um, I just don't feel like he represents us. It's just literally business with him, and I don't quite like that. To be fair. Um, Mark says Jurgen gave us our identity back, but Slot has killed it. We need that club culture back. I agree. And from a footballing point of view, we were called mentality monsters. We are nowhere near that at this stage. Ozan says Sobo future cup captain, Kerr vice captain Ozzy. Not a bad shout to be fair. Sobo 100%. Curtis Jones, yeah. But even if Curtis Jones isn't directly the vice captain, because I know they have like a list of players, and I think he will definitely be like, you know, f- like one of many vice captains, listed on paper. Player like Curtis Jones is very important to have in your squad because he knows what it means to play for Liverpool. This is a privilege for him. This is something that we all would have dreamed when we were young kids to play for Liverpool one day, but he's actually living that dream. And he is, of course, a scouser. He's representing the people. So when he's on the pitch, especially in recent weeks, he's really played with real passion, real energy, real aggression. And that's something I want to see from all of our players, not just Curtis Jones. And I've also noticed that he's been a bit more vocal on the pitch. He's really taking that responsibility to represent the fans. And I'm always seeing him barking at people. And you need that kind of voice in the squad, whether he's starting or not. You need that type of influence within a dressing room. So for me, he's an important figure. I know some fans are quite split with Curtis Jones over the years. I've always liked him. I've always thought he's a great talent. Um, he's just been unlucky with injuries, unfortunately, where he plays, gets injured, and then it takes him a few games to find that rhythm again. But whenever he performs to his level, he's always been fantastic for me. So hopefully, he stays fit. Because right now, I'll be honest with you, alongside Szoboszlai, those two players are undroppable in the Liverpool team. Kurt is only 24, Szoboszlai 25. Yeah, good age is today. Yeah, yeah. You can big up, yeah. He says, who's been in the league? As I can see, you're an Arsenal fan. I'll be honest. I'd probably say Arsenal, but don't get too ahead because you've got teams like Man City chasing behind you. Uh, so yeah, I'll say Arsenal, which I'm sure you're pleased to hear me say out loud. Bo says, if we get Inzaghi, Gerrard or Alonso, I would run crazy through the city. Bloody hell. If you get Nagelsmann or Glasner, I would honestly start crying off him. Bloody hell, you really don't like Nagelsmann, do you? Glasner, okay, I wouldn't start crying off pain, but I would find Glasner a bit underwhelming, to be fair, as an appointment. But you still have to support the coach in that situation. So I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm looking at his track record and at Frankfurt and at Crystal Palace, he's played a back three predominantly. And a back three wouldn't actually be a bad situation for us. Um, as long as for me, we should either play a 4-4-2 diamond, which is what I'm saying that is the number one formation for me. Or if we had more defenders in our squad, um 3-5-2 would be good. I feel like we need to play with front two now. We have to kind of evolve away from Mohamed Salah, because even if Salah sold in January or not, we have to think ahead. And I feel like even at this stage of his career, Salah for me is suited playing as a striker more than a right winger because less defensive work is required from him. He doesn't need to trap back, and he can be effective in a more advanced or central position. So I feel like that's more important going forward. Um, but yeah, in terms of Nagelsmann, Glasner, I don't think they're bad appointments. But Glasner, I would find it a little bit underwhelming, to be fair. Steve saying Man City or Villa. Yaya saying Sobos underrated. Yeah, he is. Um, it's funny with Sobos because when he first joined, I think his first 6 months, he really hit the ground running. And in the last 6 months, it kind of was a bit of a mixed season. I don't think he was poor, but it wasn't as great as his opening 6 months. But that could have been down to Jurgen Klopp's announcement because I feel like that did have a toll on the team's spirit. And last season, I was, you know, quite pleased with his performances last season. I feel like he really helped us playing in that advanced midfield role. But of course, what was lacking was, the numbers in terms of GA. And for me personally, I thought he was very gun shy. Like he didn't take a lot of shots on goal, and that's something, I feel like he needs to do a bit more. He's done it. He's improved in that element a bit more this season, but I feel like he needs to add that to his locker again because he's got fantastic ability from long distance shooting. So yeah, I agree. He is underrated. But I think this year. Because there's a lot of fans that have not shown him the respect. Let's be honest. People have been ridiculing Szoboszlai last season. I'm sure those fans have changed their tune uh, because he's been by far our best player this season. Also, if we sack Slot, then Liverpool. Oh, you think we'll win the league if we were to sack Slot? It will depend who comes in, but until that doesn't happen, I can't say that with chest. To be fair, Double D, big up Double D says currently Jones should be one of the first names on the team sheet. Facts. Him and Szoboszlai, first names you write down. Honestly, yeah, Lucy said anybody but Arsenal. I hear it. I feel like if Arsenal were to win the league, number one, I might have to leave the country because I would never hear the end of it, and number two, um, we'll never hear the end of it because it will be unbearable, not for just a small short period of time, forever. So yeah, anyone but Arsenal. I kind of hear that. Yahya says, yeah, of course, never two ahead. We just need the belief of getting over the line. Yeah, I will say this. I think I'm not just being cheeky here to add pressure to your team, but I feel like this squad is probably the best squad in the league right now in terms of squad depth, especially your defense. You guys have about 10 defenders. I would love to have like a few of your players because we've only got two centre backs that are fit, and of course we've got Joe Gomez, who's more of a utility player. And I feel like that's going to be the difference. The strength and depth in the squad. Uh, Manager able to rotate more. Um, Eze has been a fantastic signing. Gyökeres hasn't, for me, lived up to the bill yet. But you're doing enough to win games, and this season is probably one of your best chances of winning the league. And if you don't win, do you continue to trust the process? I think maybe it'll come to an end. Bo says there are certain managers that I need to see them manage. Liverpool. Klopp was one of them. Inzaghi is another. Fair enough. Yeah, for me, Klopp was always someone I really wanted, and I'm pleased that we got him in the end. Mark said, I do think this might be the year that Arsenal don't bottle it. We've got the scrap of our lives just to get fourth. You're spot on, Mark. We're 3 points away now, but it's a long fight for us, and there's no assurances that we will finish in top four. We're so inconsistent as a team. We really have to fix up. So yeah, I agree. I think Arsenal will unfortunately win in the end. Daz with the comment, big up Daz. That yours, he happy with the result last night? Yep, happy with the result. Always good to win. It wasn't the easiest of games. It wasn't the best of games to watch either, to be fair. But professional win at a very difficult stadium and opponent as well because we're the first team to defeat Inter Milan at home for the last 3 years in the Champions League. So it's a good record to beat, to be fair. Felicity says, Oz, real talk. Honestly, what's the highest on the table we can realistically reach come May 2026? If Slot is still manager, you're not going to like this. Fourth. I don't see us getting higher than fourth with Slot as manager or coach, whatever you want to call him. And that wouldn't be a success for me. Yes, we qualified for Champions League. It's the bare minimum, but I wouldn't be very pleased. I think fourth because there are better teams this season. But the battle for fourth and fifth, because I think maybe there'll be an extra spot for Champions League football. I'm not sure, but I think we just got to try and aim for fourth place, or just get in the top four somehow. If we end up third, amazing. But I think fourth would be the realistic target. Uh, with Slot, if we had a different coach, different manager, expectations will change possibly. But as it stands currently, I'd say fourth. And Mark said, I guarantee we don't get fourth with Slot. Or I hope not, because that would be an absolute disaster. Oh, that's it. Fourth is realistically the highest in my own opinion. Yeah. So Ozan is in the same light as me as well. Um, Boss Uncle Ross said, suppose that's not world class. Is that recently? I'll have to ask Uncle Ross the question there because he's definitely world class for me. Um, I'm sure we'll have Uncle Ross soon. I'll have to ask him the question. Dad said, when's your Brighton preview, Aussie? Brighton preview will be in the UK is Thursday now. So hopefully later on tonight. Um, if for some reason I'm not able to do it, it'll be tomorrow. But I plan on doing it later on today. That's a look forward to seeing on Saturday night main event as well. Yeah, obviously a sad one for some fans. I'm not the biggest John Cena fan because um, I kind of stopped watching wrestling when he was in his prime. I've only just started watching again because of my kids. Um, but yeah, it's going to be a good event. Interesting concept in terms of having NXT fighters versus the current WWE wrestlers as well. So yeah, it's a good concept, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. So yeah, looking forward to watching it as well. Boss, if you're new, please subscribe. Big up, Bob. Thank you for that support. Yeah, so if you are new to the channel, please, please, please hit that subscribe button, and yeah, hopefully stay tuned. We'll have lots of content. If you're a Liverpool fan, we do a lot of Liverpool shows on a daily. To be fair, um, so yeah, please do hit that subscribe button and help us achieve our target this season, which we're trying to get 1K subscribers. So yeah, appreciate your support as always, guys. Harry said, I doubt FSG will sack Slot. I hear you. I think this is what I want, and I think some of the viewers in the chat would also like Slot to be sacked. Um, but we're also, realistic and understand he might get done until the end of the season. So yeah, not looking good. Mark says, "Oh, mate, I'm genuinely terrified of Barnsley dumping us out of the FA Cup. Seriously, when do we play them? Can I be honest with you? I wouldn't be surprised if we got knocked out just because we're playing them on the 10th of January, so in a month's time. Is that Anfield? th- I say we should do well in our own ground, but we haven't done so far this season. You have a right to be concerned just because of the manner how we threw away the cup tie against Crystal Palace in the Carabao Cup. I don't feel like Slot is prioritizing the domestic cups. I feel like, in my opinion, he wants to win the Champions League this season. I think that is his ultimate goal. I don't think he was envisioning us to be terrible in the league. He thought we would have been challenging at least, which has probably surprised him. But based on the type of players we recruited in the summer, it looks like we're going for more of a continental style of football. And I think he's trying to win the Champions League. So don't be surprised if we do the same thing we did against Palace, where we have experienced that slash young up and coming players in the starting lineup and then youth players on the bench again. So yeah, I don't think he values the cup competition, to be fair. Ozzy, how much should Anthony Joshua beat Jake Paul by? Can knock him out in the first round. What is the maximum amount of rounds? Because normally his fight's like 8 rounds. I doubt he'll increase it to 11 or 12 rounds because that's suicidal, and that's him wanting to sign his death away. To be fair, no, Anthony Joshua's got to knock him out in the first 2-3 rounds max. If it goes past third round, it's all rigged. It's all pre-planned. So yeah, I really believe Jake Paul fights are all rigged anyway. So he targets retired fighters who would pretty much do anything for a big paycheck, and that's how it ends up. To be fair, so now if he doesn't beat him, yeah, honestly, Anthony Joshua may have to hang his boots, or not boots, his gloves, I guess, in this situation because since that would be an embarrassment to boxing, to say the least. Ball says 3-0 loss to Brighton. What happens, Ozzy? Bloody hell. Let's not predict our team losing, but of course, if you're assessing how we are doing right now, I get it. But oh, if we were to lose to Brighton 3-0 at home, I would say he deserves to get sacked, but I don't know if he will. Like, I just can't. I can't second guess the owners right now. It's very really hard to predict what they would do. Because quite frankly, I think most owners of most football clubs would have sacked their manager a long time ago if they had Arne Slot and they encountered so many defeats. But he's still here. So for me, if he's still here, he's clearly got their backing for this season at least. And that's a concern for me. And of course, from their point of view, remember he's a league uh winning manager. It wouldn't look good from our point of view to sack a league winning manager so soon into the season. Um So I feel like that's why they are not backing him, but they are keeping him on board until it gets really, really bad. To be fair, I feel like it's really, really bad the last few weeks, but clearly, it's salvageable from the owner's point of view. So yeah, if we were to lose against Brighton and Salah waves goodbye to the fans, oh, that's going to be a dark day. I think he deserves to be sacked, but I don't know if he will be. What I would say though, I feel like in that moment, I'm sure more fans would voice their frustrations, and it'll be more visible at Anfield. And then the pressure pile up. If we then lose the next game, which I believe is Tottenham, then he's gone. I think there's no way from coming back from that personally. But I could be wrong. FSG will just surprise us, wouldn't they? Mark says Jan 10th. Yeah, big up yourself. That is the date where we will be facing Barnsley at Anfield. What needs to happen for you, Ozzy, that you want us to lose so Slot gets sacked? I don't like us to. I don't like to. I don't want to say I want my team to lose. That for me, that doesn't fit well. Of course, when I do my match previews and I analyze the team that were coming up and analyze our performance in recent weeks, I will give you my honest opinion. So last 3 couple of games, 3 games, I have said that last 3 games actually, I've said that we're going to lose them because of the way we performed in the last few weeks. But going into Brighton, I'm a bit more confident that we'll get a result there. To be fair, um, but no, I don't ever want to wish Liverpool to lose. I don't think that's the right way to look at it. Yes, I'm frustrated with the manager. Don't get me wrong, I am. But I feel like these owners should be bold enough to get rid of the manager when he's not doing well, he's not meeting our targets, rather than allowing him to keep losing, and then you make a statement or then you action when it's too late. So for me, they need to be ahead of the curve. He's not showing a higher sort of trajectory that he's going to improve, in my opinion. Because you have to look at the results we've got. Yes, on paper we haven't lost in the last four, but still, we haven't really performed greatly, in my opinion. We've just about scraped through here and there. Against Leeds, the first two goals were lucky. Of course, the Ekitike first one, misplaced pass. Second one, it was his bravery that got us the goal there. So luck a little bit, I guess, because it ricocheted off his knee, and then Szoboszlai's goal was a good team move there. But generally, we haven't been great. So if you're looking at stats and numbers, it feels like it doesn't seem to be that bad. But when it's the eye test, I've not been impressed with our performances at all this season. Mark says, I still have cold sweats and nightmares about Plymouth Lad. Bloody yeah, that was a dire performance there. And I remember Chiesa and Elliot were not to be seen for the next 2 months, I believe. So yeah, one of our worst results I would have to say in recent years. That's it. 8 rounds. I heard Ozzy. Yeah, 8 rounds makes sense. He will never do it like a professional fight where it's 12 rounds, especially against a heavyweight like Joshua. Nah, not an option. Ozzy said, "I Jack Paul pays his opponents millions to lose." I believe so. You know, in the Tyson fight, I don't know if you guys know, it's in the first 30 seconds, like he was really, going full blow. And I feel like Jake was, because I feel like they were talking as well. And Jake was probably like, look, calm down, old man. Don't try and knock me out. Remember, we've got an agreement here. Got to try and make me look good. And I feel like that's how it is. Because the fight that was supposed to be scheduled before the Joshua fight was with Tank in terms of Javante Davis. And he made a comment in the press conference that alluded to that he don't play their games. As in, I'm not going to just bow down and accept whatever fate you want me to do, as in lose the match. That's not gonna happen. It's a real boxing match in my eyes. So they've tried to use you know, his sort of personal issues as the reason in terms of why that fight never happened. But I think it was more so that he wasn't willing to take an L for any paycheck. Most of Chiesa hasn't played a single second after he saved Slot's job. Looks like he's too ill to even get on the bench. So yeah. Even Leicester did it with Ranieri. Yeah, they did. They did. Mark says, imagine how Endo must feel. He's been an uber professional, just kept his head down. The guy is literally an Audi, ultra dependable. Yeah, whenever called upon, he always performs to his highest ability. And you need professional figures like that in your squad. But even for Endo's point, I think he's been mistreated. He should have played a lot more games this season. Uh, I'll talk it because he can't get any worse. Any other club, he would have been sacked already. Facts. I can't disagree with you there. That is a very huge point there. A lot of clubs would have sacked him by now. But so yes, clearly the manager has got no clue. Liverpool cannot afford not to be in the UCL. Uncle Ross, big up, bro. Big up, Uncle Ross. I hope you're well. Uncle Ross, one of my viewers have said that you don't think Szoboszlai is world class. Let me know. Give me your take on that because I need to hear what you got to say. But we can also, chop it up one time on a separate show as well if you want. All right, let's get into other news as well. And I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of comments being made from the typical culprit in Jamie Carragher. But then you've got the likes of Steven Gerrard, El Mohammadi as well. And you've also got Jurgen Klopp. I don't know if the Jurgen Klopp quote was from today or in recent times. Um, Uncle Ross said I never said that. I I hear you, Uncle Ross. I forgot who mentioned it. Someone said that you don't, but no, that's all good, Uncle Ross. She says Uncle Ross don't race over. Yo, Unc. Look, if Uncle Ross says that, I'm gonna take Uncle Ross's word for that. Now, let's talk about Salah because there's a lot circulating in terms of rumors. So let's focus on him from, unfortunately, a transfer point of view. Um, Something I saw today and I thought, you know what? It wouldn't surprise me if this is true. Whether it happens or not remains to be seen. But the rumor was that Mo Salah's representatives are ready to ask Liverpool to come to a mutual termination over his contract. I would not be surprised if his representatives have that kind of that sort of viewpoint because they have made Salah into a scapegoat. Let's be frank, and they've tried to tarnish his reputation. They've tried to tarnish his legacy. Um, and it's not been a good look for Mohamed Salah all round. So because they felt disrespected by the club, I would not be surprised if this is the kind of notion there. Um, but Liverpool won't accept that. That's not an option at all. In terms of possible destinations, Saudi Arabia are prepared to do whatever um, they can to bring Mohamed Salah to Saudi Pro League in January. For me, there's definitely legs. I expect him to join the Saudi Pro League. One thing I noticed as well, there was a rumor regarding San Diego, which is a new franchise, a new team in the MLS, and they're actually owned by an Egyptian businessman who I think is a billionaire. So it makes sense that an Egyptian wants to sign one of the most famous Egyptian players in their history to come on board and join his club. I feel like the Saudi probably would be a bit more appealing project for him because so many reasons. He's one of the most famous um, players in the world, but in the Arab world, he's one of the most famous individuals. Full stop. And the marketing involved would you know would break all kinds of records in terms of sales and revenue. And I feel like him, moving to the Middle East in an Islamic country, it ticks a lot of his boxes as well in terms of lifestyle and culture and religion. So I see that being more of an appealing project for him. Um, but yeah, that's something I feel like is um, the more realistic destination for Mohamed Salah. I know there's been some rumors in terms of a move um, in Europe. I'm not too sure, to be honest with you. Um, I'm not too sure about that, just because I feel like the teams that we mentioned, like Barcelona's been mentioned, they wouldn't drop Yamal for him, and I don't think they'll move Yamal around because Yamal is pretty much a natural right winger. PSG, I don't think he fits their style of play. Like he might display someone, but I don't think they play very much on the high press. It wouldn't work. I don't think he'd go Real Madrid in terms of what's happened with us over the years with both clubs. Bayern Munich, they've got Elise, so no, I don't really think Europe is a realistic decision. I think Saudi is the more obvious choice there. And there's also been some speculation that Mohamed Salah is unlikely to play against Brighton. Whether that's him starting or not, I don't know. That's something I'll have to look into and try and present to you guys tomorrow in the match preview, which I'll say later today as we're in Thursday now. Um, I wouldn't be surprised. He's definitely not starting. That's something I can pretty much say very confidently. On the squad, maybe, but he'll definitely be present, as in he'll be in the crowd. And if he's waving goodbye, unfortunately, guys, that's curtains. That means Salah is leaving Liverpool. Um, which is not the way a club legend like Salah should be departing. And I've been so surprised with the disrespect in Salah's name from so-called Liverpool fans. I think some of the stuff that I've heard or seen online is absolutely uncalled for and outrageous altogether. Um, Literally, he's used the term "thrown under the bus." The fans have done it now. In terms of the way they've spoken about him, yes, I have to, make it clear. I disagree with his stance in terms of going public about his frustrations and all that sort of stuff. But I feel like it was both frustration and he just couldn't hold on to it anymore. But my theory is that there has been discussion in the back that he's been told that he will be sold in January. That's why he's reacted in that manner. Um, whether it's true or not, one day we'll find out, I guess. But yeah, let's see. Let's see what happens. Um, Now, sticking to the Salah topic, Jamie Carragher had a heated debate with Michael Richards about Salah coming on against Leeds United. And I just wanted to address a few things because there's things that Carragher said that I think are slightly conflicting. So Carragher mentions that it made zero sense to bring Salah on as Liverpool 2-0 up. Leeds got back to 2-2. The ball in play was, I think, a 3-minute gap. And then, Liverpool made it 3-2. He then said that there was a 3-minute window to bring Salah on, and you never bring on an attacker like Salah when you're in front. He's not going to defend set pieces or track back. And he also said that he's not going to present anything from a from a physical point of view in a set piece because he's so small, which again was uncalled for. A slight dig at Mohamed Salah, not needed in that moment. Don't know what his problem is. Clearly has a personal issue with Mohamed Salah. But look, I'll be neutral in terms of my assessment with regards to those comments there. Uh, he has a point. You don't normally bring on a player when you're in front and late in the game. At the same time, I don't think that's completely true. When you're a big team like Liverpool, sometimes the best way to defend is by attacking. So if you bring on a player like Salah at 3-2, the opponent will have to adapt their tactics because the player that is coming onto the pitch is a world class finisher. If he gets a chance and makes it 4-2, it's game over. So you have to be very careful in terms of how you attack going forward. And also, just to point out, when we scored our third goal on the 80th minute, Slot made the substitutions of Endo and Isak in the 84th minute. So we brought on a CDM to close up shop, but we still conceded a last minute winner. And also to say the obvious, Salah could have been the attacker that came on instead of Isak, but Slot clearly has a problem with Salah and refused to bring him on. So all this talk about, we should have gone defensive. Clearly, Arne Slot didn't agree with that because he brought on a CDM and a striker. So make that make sense. And quite frankly, I'm getting sick and tired of Jamie Carragher's comments. Uh, Quite frankly, he's talking out of his ass nowadays. He's got a personal issue with Salah, but he's so quick to say, Salah should have a different demeanor. He should be speaking up about the club in interviews. Or he mentioned that Salah did the post of him being at the gym at Access Center. He should have written, "Oh, good luck to the boys." Like no one really does that. It's just a social media post. It's no big deal. And he said that he hasn't represented the club very well. But the thing is, by Carragher, chatting absolute rubbish in recent times, he's not representing the club very well either. Whether he's employed or not, it doesn't really matter by Liverpool. Because you've turned this post-match interview into a global circus now. You know, on Monday Night Football, he could have, gone with a different approach to have been constructive. And if he had said, Salah was wrong, he should have done this or should have done that, it would have been fine. But he took personal jabs. He went below the belt. And if he had spoken in a more calm and composed manner and not get all emotional and go on this crazy rant that he did on Sky Sports, we still wouldn't be talking about this right now. So you've just made the issue bigger than it should have been, in my opinion, and you've tried to make it all about yourself, which annoys me as well. And then to end this, he tried to apologize to him, saying, "Oh, I love you as a player, but you need to behave yourself off the pitch." Now, I don't normally swear on my shows, but I'm gonna try and keep it PG. So he just needs to jog on now with his fake apology, talking absolute nonsense. And quite frankly, he just needs to stop talking about Salah. Full stop now. It's getting beyond silly now. But then a player, a former teammate in El Mohammadi, responded to Jamie Carragher's comments, and I'm gonna say it quote unquote. This is what Ahmed El Mohammadi said. He said, "Right, Jamie, you're a disgrace. Salah completely rewrote his story through hard work, humility, and world class performances. He didn't fail at Chelsea. He was never given a chance. He went to Italy, rebuilt himself, then came to Liverpool and became a Premier League legend. He and also Egypt's greatest ever player and one of the most consistent forwards of his generation." Salah has carried Egypt for years and got Egypt qualified for the World Cup twice after so long. Salah earned everything. No wonder you get blanked, or got blanked, I should say, by Cristiano Ronaldo. No wonder Messi called you out. No wonder Mourinho said you were below average and not even in the top 1,000 defenders in the Premier League. So, yeah, shots fired there from El Mohammadi, and for me, rightly so. And then I saw a quote from Jurgen Klopp. I don't know if this is, from today or yesterday or if it's an old quote, but I still find it very interesting and fascinating to know how he spoke about Mohamed Salah. So this is what Jurgen Klopp had to say. Quote unquote, he said, "We are all massively influenced by our past, how we were raised, where we grew up. Mo knew early on in his life that he had to do more than others. He always developed, he never stops. That is his mindset. After each summer break, he came back and had a new skill. It was like he had spent the whole time just practicing one particular type of pass. We pushed each other just to make sure that we would never stop, and we never did stop. That moment lifting the Premier League bonded us for life. He'll be remembered as one of the greatest of all time. I wouldn't say he's easy to manage, but he's also not difficult to manage. You only have problems with Mo Salah if he's not playing or you take him off. So I feel like that's a great way of looking in terms of why Mohamed Salah is the player that he is today. It's not by luck. It's not he's been privileged because he doesn't have to defend or trap back. He's had to work hard to achieve where he is right now and deserves all the plaudits, in my opinion. Also, Steven Gerrard made some comments on TNT Sports, um, and this is some of the things that he said. So he said he's obviously really upset he's not playing, which I respect. Before I continue, I feel like people are missing this as well because there was a player at Arsenal called Mesut Ozil who never said a word. He was happily earning 400, 500K a week. He knew he was being disrespected, but he thought, you know what, I'm getting a paycheck. I don't care what the club has to say about me. I'm still here. Yes, I'm not saying Salah should have voiced his opinions so publicly the way he did on Saturday, but you still have to respect that he wants to play, he wants to start, he wants to help the team, and that's something you can't just ignore. It's very easier said than done. He can easily just sit down and earn the big bucks, but he actually wants to help Liverpool. He cares about this team. He cares about this club. I think if he could, he probably wants to retire here as well. So the disrespect that he's getting from some of us Liverpool fans is outrageous, in my opinion. But back to the quote from Steven Gerrard. He also said a couple of lines about throwing people under the bus were wrong. He needs to reverse a little bit away from that. He needs to deal with that with the manager. I totally agree with Gerrard on that one. We've all had head losses as players. We've all done emotional things. I know in time when this all comes down, more will go. I should have done that. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. I was a bit emotional. I was a bit hasty. And he went on to say Liverpool Football Club need Mohamed Salah back playing well, back scoring goals because he is the best player, the best goal scorer, and he will help them get out of this. So for me, that was very well said by Steven Gerrard, and I think Jamie Redknapp could take a leaf out of his book because that's how you assess the situation and that's how you critique it, where you're not taking personal jabs, you're understanding their point of view, but also stating the facts that he should have said this and he should have done that. So for me, that's the right way of doing it. So Jamie Carragher could learn a thing or two from Steven Gerrard there. Before we move on, just gonna go through some of the comments. Um, Bo said, I asked you, and the whole panel said it's crazy how many people think certain players are world class nowadays. Uh, and that player was Sobo. Is that in reference to Uncle Rod's? Mark said, if you don't believe that Mo didn't get the go ahead from the dressing room before the mix zone interview, you probably believe in fairies and unicorns. Yeah. Um, Lucy, but Uncle Sobo has been the most consistent, best performing player this entire season. That's not even up for debate. That's a fact there. Uh, as I said, which Egyptian billionaire is wanting to sign Mo Salah Ozzy? So, I've forgotten his name. Let me quickly bring his name up. So he is a British Egyptian businessman and former politician named Mohammed Mansour. Yeah. So he's part of the club ownership group at San Diego. So he's Egyptian. So I think he's trying to get Salah over to San Diego. So let's see if that happens. Also says he'll go back to Italy. Italy wouldn't be a bad move. Where would you think he would go in Italy? A return to Roma, or would there be another club? I think in terms of the style of play there, I think he can still do a good job. That I think can be effective in Serie A. But I just feel like he's destined to go Saudi. That's my prediction there. Steve says, nah, he ain't playing against Brighton. Slot is spiteful and won't even select him on the bench. I agree with you, Steve. I think that is exactly what's going to happen. Mark says, Mo is too old to move anywhere else other than Saudi. Top up his pension. He goes with my blessings for all he's done. That's fair. Steve says Salah's children and grandchildren will be set for life after he finishes his career in Saudi. 100%. A move to Italy might appeal to Salah. Actually, I don't know if he would, because he's been there. He was there at Fiorentina and Roma. I'm sure he would have enjoyed the lifestyle there and stuff, but maybe he'd want to, try something different, try a new challenge. And I think Saudi would fit the bill there. Mark says Sobo made a telling comment in his interview after Leeds that not many picked up. What happened in the dressing room stays there. Obviously, something has happened. I think, yeah, after that, Salah just did what he had to do. So I don't think that was something that the players agreed to let Salah go. I think Salah just went on his own accord and, yeah, said what he had to say. Archer says, Carragher is an idiot. Salah is not any player. He's a legend of the club. Would he say that about Gerrard? No, he would not. Certainly wouldn't. But also, I don't like how the players are defending Slot over Salah, though. For Saudi. Are you talking about current players? I don't think they've been vocal like that personally. They can't just outright say Salah over Slot, if that makes sense. So I don't, from what I gather, especially what Allison said, well, Van Dijk said as well. They all pretty much agree that Salah maybe shouldn't have been so open in his comments or his thoughts in that interview. Um, but he has our support. That's what it feels like, from a player's point of view. So no, I don't think they would do that because it puts them in a bit of a jeopardy in terms of their future at the club as well. As I fully agree with how Stevie G delivered his analysis on the whole situation. Facts. I think he perfectly summarized what needed to be said. Her boss says Jamie's a blue white. Yeah. Honestly, bro, Ozzy, I just looked it up. San Diego FC was just from 2 years ago. Yeah, it's a brand new team. So they're trying to get a marquee signing, and of course, with him being British Egyptian, he's trying to get the best ever in terms of their country history, and that is of course Mo Salah. So let's see what happens with that one. Um, let's move on and speak about transfers before we close the show. Nothing really groundbreaking, where we should be excited off our seats right now. The current rumor is that apparently Tottenham are one of a cultural clubs showing interest, or major interest, I should say, in Semenyo. Uh, Semenyo would be hesitant to join the North London team because um, he's actually an Arsenal supporter as well. Um, and it's believed that he would be more tempted to consider an offer from either Man City, Liverpool, or his boyhood club in Arsenal. So my thoughts on that is, yeah, Tottenham don't stand a chance. They need him, of course they do. They need a lot of players to be fair, but no. The most starting destination would be either Liverpool, Arsenal, or Man City. Um, my gut is saying Liverpool. I'm not saying that 'cause I'm a Liverpool fan. I do think he'll join because I feel like we're putting the groundwork to get him on board. And if Salah goes, to come in as his replacement, I think he'll be jumping overjoyed to do that or to come on board. After the personal terms have already been agreed, man. Done deal. Really? I heard that a few weeks ago, but I wasn't sure if that's the case. But if that's true, then yeah, we'll see Semenyo in about 3 weeks' time. So if that's the case, yeah, I think he's the right profile. I think he's the right player for us to come for him to come on board. What separates him from other wingers or wide players is that he's both-footed. He's effective on the left wing or on the right wing. He's direct. He's skillful. And he's got a great shot in him as well. Um, so for me, um, I think he would be a great sign for us. The fee, I know people will be like 65 minutes, a lot of money, but I don't know. I think in this kind of current market, it's worth it. We could wait until the summer and try and get him for about 50, but there's so much interest in the player, and he's been so good for Bournemouth this season. We have to scrap our summer plans and try and get him on board before. So I think if that is the case, that we have agreed personal terms, fantastic. So it's only a matter of time that we sign him, which I would be very pleased about, to be fair. Mark says, I better hit the pillars, Ozzy. Thanks for the chat. Good night, mashallah, and free Palestine. Free Palestine, indeed. And thank you, Mark. I think it's your first time in the comments. I appreciate your support, and hopefully you've subscribed, and hopefully we'll see you in your live chat very soon in upcoming shows. Do you see did you see the article saying that NBA and ownership are very reluctant to make Harvey's loan deal permanent? I'll get into that very shortly, Steve. Yes, I did see that today. Uh, let's move on to another player that we've been linked with in Wilfred Singo. Now, apparently, the talented Ivorian defender is expected to be the subject of a 28 million euro bid from Liverpool. The 24-year-old was not included in Ivory Coast's squad for AFCON. So, my thoughts on this player, he played against us, from what I remember, and I believe he had a good game, but it wasn't a world class performance where I'm like, oh, this is the guy, we've got to bring him on board. I didn't feel that about him. I don't think they'll sell him so soon because they signed him from Monaco in the summer, and I think they paid about 20, 25, 30 million. Like it was a decent chunk of money for a Turkish club. So I don't think they would want to sell him 6 months, after signing him. Um, Next summer, it might be a different conversation if they generally believe he's a great target. Um, I've only seen him once against us, and we were quite poor in that game. So yeah, not great showcase, unfortunately. So I would have to watch a bit more to say if he's the right player for us. In terms of the fees, not a lot, but I think the fee's not accurate either because they paid about that much or maybe even a bit more. So for me, in terms of the news, I don't think there's any truth to it at all. On to the next room, and that's Ibu Konate. Now, a couple of days ago, I mentioned that Liverpool could consider selling Ibu Konate for 50 millions with the likes of, I think, Fenerbahce, and there was another team, I forgot now, linked with a move. Today's rumor is that Real Madrid are once again considering a move for Liverpool defender Ibrahima Konate as they look to reinforce their backline following Eder Militao's serious injury blow. With just 6 months left on his contract, the French centre back could be available for around 50 million, a bargain opportunity for Real Madrid. So, my thoughts on that, take him. I know he played good yesterday. I'm not going to disrespect him in that way, but take him. I feel like his head has been turned, and I think he's probably got one foot in Madrid already. That's why it comes across because a lot of the games this season he hasn't, for me, fully focused. He just seems to be his head seems to be somewhere else in Madrid, clearly. So for me, no, not. I know it'd be silly to get rid of him in January because then we'll have to sign probably two centre backs, and that's not going to be realistic. Um, but in this situation, we have to react. He's only got 6 months left, and if he's not willing to commit, we have to sell him on. So if it's 15 million, I'll take it. And maybe use that 15 million to push for a Mark Gahey move. So yeah, let's see. Let's see what happens. But whether this is real or not, to be fair, they do need to sign a defender. Um, Unfortunately for Militao, this is the second injury in 2 years. He's had a serious injury like that. It happened last season, and it ended up being where Schumann plays centre back for large parts of the season. So if they can get Ibu Konate quicker than planned, they might consider it. To be fair, on to the next one is Alisson Becker. Now apparently, AC Milan have made a move for the Liverpool keeper. Milan have opened talks with the Brazilian goalkeeper's camp, making it clear that they want to move fast. The timing could work perfectly with Liverpool prepared to sanction a transfer next summer as he enters the final year of his deal. My thoughts on that. I'm not ready to see Alisson Becker depart from Liverpool. I know he'll be on his last year of his contract. I still feel like he's good enough to play for Liverpool longer, and I feel like we could probably even give him an extension. I don't know how the fans would feel about that, but me personally, I still feel like he's a very, very much a world class keeper. Apologies, and I'd like him to be at the club a little bit longer. To be fair, whether it happens or not, remains to be seen. It says AC Milan could be a potential move. I can actually see him moving back to Brazil, or maybe a Saudi move. If the money's right. But maybe he'd want to go back to Brazil and play his final years there, in my opinion. So one to watch, I guess, but he's not leaving anytime soon. That's for sure. And the final rumor of today is Harvey Elliott. Now, Una Emre has confirmed that Harvey Elliott is likely to leave Aston Villa in January. He said, hopefully, we get a solution for him to try to play consistently, to continue his career with us or not. He's on loan here, but not definitely adding to us with a permanent contract. So, what does that mean for Liverpool? Do we bring him back and then sell him or loan him out again, or do we actually, reinstate him back into the squad? Personally, I'd bring him back to the squad. I think he could be a viable option for us. He could cover for Florian Wirtz in that number 10 role. Um, Whether Salah's here or not, he can cover for Mohamed Salah or cover for that right wing position, I should say. So I feel like he could be a very important member for us. But Slot may disagree, and Slot might try to loan him out again or get him sold. So I would have to say it's unlikely that he will play for Liverpool in January. I think if he was to return, he might be sold to a Red Bull Leipzig or a team like that out of the country because he was linked to a move there. Um, it's such a shame to know how things have panned out for him because I think he's a very talented player. I think he made the wrong move. I don't think he should join Aston Villa. I think he may probably should have joined like Red Bull Leipzig. I think that team in the league in terms of Bundesliga would have been perfect for his skill set because he's a more of a technical player, not the fastest or not regarded as speed demon or anything like that. So with the Bundesliga being a little bit slower than the Premier League, I feel like he would have been more adaptable in playing that league, and I think he would have been effective um, playing as a 10 or even on the right wing. And I feel like it really could have helped his chances of being selected for England in the World Cup. But unfortunately for Elliot, it's not this move. Villa has not worked out. He's barely played. Um, I think unfortunately he's regretting the move. So yeah, feel for him. Hopefully, his future is sorted out in the near future, in sort of close proximity. Hopefully, it looks like Villa don't want him, so maybe loan him out to another Premier League team or loan him out elsewhere, and then hopefully get a deal done for the summer. Because I don't think Slot rates him, and I don't think he has a future at the club, unfortunately. So yeah, that's my stance on um, Harvey Elliott. Just gonna go through some of the comments, and then we will close the show. All that says, I think Slot don't rate Harvey, so he'll probably get sold rather than run on the bench like Chiesa. I agree with you, to be fair, Ozan. Jose Slot's head is in Ibiza. Probably is, to be fair. All I want for Christmas is Ozzy to check out Italiano. I will check him out, Bo. I'll make it my priority to check it today, and then I will give you my take on the match preview on the next show. So yeah, I will let you know. Uh, Arthur says not going to happen. I think that's in regards to Elliot. Yeah, I don't see him returning to Liverpool and playing a part in terms of our season. I expect him to either get loaned out again or sold in January. So let's see what happens to Harvey and his future. But that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Shout out to Bo, shout out to Ozan, shout out to Abdul, shout out to Delulu Steve, shout out to Mark, shout out to who else do we have? Shout out to Martin, shout out to Yahya, shout out to Double D, we got Double D as always. Uh, Shout out to Uncle Rods, shout out to Harris, um, shout out to Daz, shout out to Otto. Appreciate you commenting today. Um, and I think that is it. Apologies if I missed you. If you're new to the channel, please don't forget to like and subscribe. In terms of upcoming shows, we'll be doing a match preview later on today, as this past midnight in the UK. At 11 p.m. UK time, that's roughly the time that I normally do my shows. And yeah, we'll do the match preview of Liverpool versus Brighton. And then on Saturday, we will do the watch along slash match reaction show as well. Could be the last that we see Mohamed Salah. I'm hoping that is not the case, and hopefully that is not what occurs where he's waving goodbye to us. But we'll have to wait and see. But that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Um, Take care, stay safe, and I hope to speak with you all very, very soon. Goodbye.